All right, we are talking about the respiratory system tonight. So I've got Rudy here, who's going to do a bulk of the presentation. Right, Rudy? He thinks so. All right, so welcome, welcome, welcome. Glad to have you all here. Whew, if you do not have an essential oil within reach, I would recommend that you go get one because I'm going to have you all do a little test. It doesn't matter what oil, just grab any oil, have it near you. And I will let you know when we get to that portion of the class. So the information I'm going to talk about, because I'm talking about a body system that has disease, I'm not going to diagnose, treat, cure, or prevent any disease. I'm going to talk about being proactive and wellness tips and things that you can do to maintain and strengthen your respiratory system, which is very timely for the world that we live in. So I have been an attorney for 27 years, specializing in criminal prosecution of animal abuse and, oh, Rudy's on the move here, animal abuse. All right, there we go. And family violence. And I speak at conferences all over the world on this specialty about how animal abuse links to family violence. And I've written a lot of legal publications, about 50 legal publications. And as a result of that work, oh, I got to put Rudy down. Rudy, he's so distracting. I created, and I'm the founder and CEO of Sheltering Animals and Families Together, which is a nonprofit helping domestic violence shelters to create on-site pet housing. And then I have Manifested Harmony, my healing business, which is celebrating its 10-year anniversary this year. And I am a holistic wellness consultant. I have 7 different certifications. I'm a master teacher, energy healer, as well as a certified health coach, life coach, and all sorts of good stuff. And I am a Young Living brand partner. And if you have not grabbed your copies of the Oily Pet or the Oily Crystal, by watching this, you can use coupon code ZOOM to get 10% off of either book or both books. They're great books to teach from. If you ever want to teach one of these classes, you can literally teach from the book. I basically gave you my classes and put it in book form. Makes it really easy to use. And if you have not heard of the Sacred Shift, this is a membership group that I started this year. We are getting ready to go into our 2nd year. And it's all about if you are just not feeling yourself, kind of struggling with the energies in the world that we live in right now. We're in an energy shift. And whether you fully comprehend what that means, we're all experiencing it. And it can create a lot of struggle. So the Sacred Shift is a membership group where you're going to learn all sorts of things to really flow with the changes and flow with the energy so that you feel your best self, physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually. So you can join at any time. And I will tell you, on January 1st, prices go up. So this is a good time to lock in prices. And I can't believe that we are in the 11th month of this year. Holy moly. I remember January like it was truly yesterday. So we are talking about the respiratory system, and then we're going to end the year with the musculoskeletal system. So, all right, let's dive in. And for those of you who are here, if you have questions, feel free to type them in the chat. And then at the end, we can unmute lines and you can even ask questions that way. So, oh my goodness. Okay, so if you have an oil, this is not part of the test, just breathe it. Just breathe it. I am actually diffusing and breathing sniffles because it just smells so good. Take a really deep breath, get those oils deep in the lungs. Don't take little tiny breaths. That does nothing. That does nothing. You got to take a really deep breath. All right. Let's talk about winter. For those of us in the Northern Hemisphere, it's arriving. It's coming in about 5 weeks. And, but we're already in it. I mean, here in Michigan, we're cold. We had frost on the ground this morning. We got below 30 degrees. It was cold and snow is coming. And with winter comes the season of coughing, sneezing, having sinus problems, having bronchitis, pneumonia, the flu, and then the big daddy of them all, COVID, which is really year round. All of these can be year round, but it gets worse in the winter. And that's because in winter season, we have less sunlight. So we're getting less vitamin D. We have less sunlight, which brings us joy. We stay inside more. And if the air inside your home is not healthy, that's going to impact your lungs, your respiratory system. And just the cold. The cold weather can really wreak havoc on the respiratory system, your nasal cavity, as well as your lungs. So with winter coming, the respiratory system takes a hit. And so I'm going to talk about all the things that you can do to strengthen it. But first, let's actually talk about what it is, because it's more than your lungs. So our respiratory system is responsible for taking in oxygen and expelling carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide is a waste that our body has to expel. If it doesn't, we literally poison ourselves from the inside out. So it's really important to have a fully functioning, healthy respiratory system, or you are just poisoning yourself every day. Now, our respiratory system includes the olfactory system. The olfactory system includes the sinuses and the nasal cavity. So the sinuses help, and you may not have known this. I tell you, I learned the best stuff being a health coach and doing all of this research. The sinuses help regulate the temperature and the humidity of the air that we breathe. Did you know that? I think that's pretty awesome. My sinuses historically have been one of my biggest problems. They're so much better now. But our olfactory system includes the sinuses and the nasal cavity. The respiratory system also includes our lungs. So red blood cells collect oxygen from the lungs and carry it throughout the body, and then collect the carbon dioxide and bring it back to the lungs to exhale. So our lungs are basically spinning 2 different plates at the same time. And then the pharynx, this is the membrane-lined cavity behind the nose and the mouth, and it connects the nose and the mouth to the esophagus. And then we have the trachea, which is our windpipe, and then we have the bronchi. These are the tubes that carry oxygen to the lungs, and they're lined with cilia, these little finger thingies that carry mucus up and out, up and out. That's what the bronchi do. And every time we sneeze, cough, spit, or swallow, we are expelling mucus. We are a mucus machine. And if we don't expel it, it's not a good thing for our body. So this is what the bronchi does. The diaphragm is the muscle at the bottom of the lungs, and it actually controls our breathing, and it separates the chest and the abdominal cavity. So if you've ever gone through any sort of physical therapy, no matter what your physical therapy is, I've noticed that they always seem to teach you how to breathe from your diaphragm. And then, did you know that our thyroid also controls our breathing? I have, I think, a rooty cat hair in my nose, which is going to impact my breathing. Oh my gosh, it's like driving me crazy. Whew, okay, all right. So our thyroid controls our breathing. And adults breathe about 12 to 16 breaths per minute resting, and about 45 breaths per minute during strenuous exercise. So if your lungs are not in good shape, it makes it hard to exercise. And if you don't exercise, it's hard to get your lungs in good shape. So it ends up becoming kind of this dog chasing its tail. And we cannot smell a substance unless its molecules can vaporize in the air that we breathe. Isn't that interesting? We cannot smell a substance unless the molecules can vaporize in the air that we breathe. And toxins actually come out of our body through our breath. So like I said, every time we sneeze, cough, spit, swallow, or just exhale, we are expelling toxins out of our body. And I don't think a lot of people think about that, especially when they're getting really close in your face. Pre-pandemic, of course. I think that's a thing now in the pandemic where people who didn't like having people in their space now have a really good reason to say, we're in a pandemic. I need you to step 6 feet back. Like, don't get in my personal space. But even before the pandemic, we're expelling toxins out of our body all the time. So it's like, be cautious of that when you're around other people. And we can encounter a lot of different types of respiratory distress. So conditions such as viruses like the flu, pneumonia, bronchitis, COVID, these can cause respiratory distress. Chronic conditions such as asthma, I mean, this is inflammation of the lung airwaves, or COPD, and COPD is an intersection of chronic bronchitis, asthma, and emphysema. So basically you're getting triple whammy. And then lung cancer. So up to 24,000 American non-smokers die each year of lung cancer. 24,000 non-smokers dying of lung cancer. One of the most popular, you may not remember this, but I will never forget, Christopher Reeves, who played Superman in the movies and died. He had an accident. He was a paraplegic. He died of those injuries like 8 years after the accident. His wife, Dana, died of lung cancer. She was a non-smoker, died 6 months after he died. I'm going to come back to that because it's very interesting. But I never forgot that. That was my first awareness that, oh, non-smokers can get lung cancer. And there's over 234,000 new cases of lung cancer a year just in the United States. That doesn't count other countries. So there's lots of chronic lung issues. Asthma is probably the biggest one. But then sleep issues. A lot of people have chronic sleep issues, snoring, sleep apnea. These are respiratory distress disorders. So people who snore and think it's no big deal, it's a big deal. That is respiratory distress on the body. It's your body telling you something's wrong. So when you breathe and you make breathing noises, that's respiratory distress. When you cannot tolerate exercise, like a fast walk, I'm not talking about running a marathon, but like a fast walk or going up and down stairs, that's respiratory distress. When you don't have a normal respiratory rate, that's respiratory distress. When you cannot take in a deep breath, that's respiratory distress. When your lymphatic system is sluggish, that is a sign of respiratory distress. So even our emotions impact our breathing. Anxiety and stress create shallow breathing. When we are feeling strong and empowered, we breathe very deeply and with strength. We breathe stronger. But when you breathe shallow, it actually harms your body because you're not oxygenating it, but it actually puts off an energy that impacts your credibility and trustworthiness because you're just kind of slumped over. But people who take a really deep breath, it opens the chest, and you appear more confident. So if you ever need to feel confident, just take a deep breath and that'll happen. But then we have the dangers in the world of everything that we breathe. I mean, is there any safe air anymore? Pollution is all over our world. Toxic cleaners, using products that warn don't breathe when you use them, because they actually penetrate the lungs, the skin, and get into the brain. So all of these cleaners, it's like, how am I supposed to clean if it says don't breathe? Well, they want you to wear a mask. So if you are using cleaners that says don't breathe in, you need to get rid of those immediately. And sadly, they're toxic for the environment. So how do you dispose of them? It's just a real shame of how many companies are creating toxic products that are toxic for us and toxic for the planet, toxic for the soil and the water systems. It's unbelievable. I could go off on a tangent. I'm not going to do it. Candles are not good for the lungs. Plug-ins, the scented plug-ins, aerosols, not good for the lungs. Off-gassing from carpet, furniture, mattresses, pillows, really not good for the lungs. Even talc, like talc powder, baby powder, talc powder if you wear a mineral makeup. Not all mineral makeup has talc in it. Young Living's doesn't, but most mineral makeup does, because when you brush talc powder on your face, you breathe it in. You breathe it in. And when you use baby powder that has talc, which at least here in the United States has been directly linked to ovarian cancer, but you're breathing it in and it impacts the lungs. So, I mean, our lungs are constantly challenged all day, every day, no matter where we go. Constantly challenged with flus, toxins. I mean, just everything. It's amazing. We can be as healthy as we are. Hey, Rudy, where are you going? All right, hold on. Rudy. Trying to join in here. All right. And when we experience deep grief or other deep traumatic emotions, if it is prolonged, it will take up residency in the lungs. So recently I taught a grief protocol class. I think it was last month, and there are different oils for the grief protocol depending on at which of the 7 stages you're in. Frankincense is a good initial oil to start with because it does work on the lung meridian, which is where grief is stored, to really help pull grief energy from the lungs. And then I typically follow with either inner child or joy. Usually jumping from frankincense to joy is a little too much of a leap. Inner child tends to work better, or any citrus oil. But if you go on to my Instagram page, there is a highlight on there with the grief protocol, and you can look at it. It's got everything on there. And then it's also on my YouTube page. But grief in the lungs is toxic if it is not dealt with. And it's not saying that you can't grieve, because we have to when we have a grieving situation. It's moving beyond the grief. So people who are still grieving years later, guaranteed they're already working on pretty significant lung problems. They probably have asthma, and it's going to progress. So getting back to the whole Christopher Reeve's wife, Dana, who died from lung cancer. She was a non-smoker. And she died, I want to say it was within 6 months of his death. And I've always felt that the grief literally killed her, because she cared for him for, it was like 8 or 9 years that he was a paraplegic. That's grieving. She immediately lost her husband that she knew, and had to grieve the life that they lost. while still caring for him and loving him. And then when he died, all that grief just embedded even deeper. Because I always thought it was unusual that she died of lung cancer. And that's what grief can do if it's not dealt with. So I wanted to put that in here because this is huge. This is huge. A lot of people are feeling grief right now in the world that we live in because our world has dramatically changed, and they want it to go back to what it was. It's never going to go back. It's only going to keep going. And this is what that sacred shift group that I created is helping people to adapt to the changes, because grief is what a lot of people are feeling. So on that note, let's talk about the power of breathing oils. There are major therapeutic benefits. Major therapeutic benefits. If you are using a very high quality essential oil, not a fragrance oil that you find in the stores, a truly high quality, like Young Living, there is a tremendous therapeutic benefit. So we know that part of the respiratory system is the olfactory system, and the olfactory system contains the olfactory receptors and the olfactory bulb. So the olfactory receptors actually take in the oils. So when you're breathing an oil, the receptors are taking it in, grabbing the aromatics and taking it in. And then the olfactory bulb deciphers what it is. Is it calming? Is it energizing? Does it need to go to the prefrontal cortex to light it up so that you can remember and think and learn? What does it need to do? So it deciphers the oils. If you want to breathe in an oil and have it stay in your body the longest possible time, go for what's called a medium note. There's low notes, medium note, or bass notes. No, now I'm totally getting this confused. Low notes, medium notes, and high notes. Go for a medium note. This is an oxygenated monoterpene. Okay, oxygenated monoterpene. These oils like water. Our body is mostly water. And so because these oils like water, they're going to linger in the body for the longest possible time. So oils that are high in aldehydes, like lemongrass. These are the sweet, the floral, the nutty oils. Oils that are high in alcohols, like geranium. Oils high in ketones, like spearmint and basil. Oils high in esters, like lavender. And then the whole list that you see at the bottom, you know, from cinnamon to citronella to spearmint to zhangmao, which is one of my favorites, palmarosa, neroli, I mean, everything in between. Those oils, when you smell them, are going to stay in your body the longest amount of time. And oils help to oxygenate the cells. When we breathe in, it oxygenates the cells in our bodies. When we are not breathing properly, our cells suffer and begin to die. This is why taking a really deep breath frequently throughout the day is important. Very few people do it. Very few people do it. And then when you're asked to do it, it's hard. This is like going to the gym. You got to work those lung muscles. Okay. So what is also interesting about these oils that are, you know, these medium notes that are oxygenated monoterpenes is that these are commonly known as our emotional oils. They work on our emotional being. So there's an interesting connection between breathing oils and the emotional response, especially when you're working with these. So, you know, when you approach something that has caused anxiety in the past, when you have anxiety, you breathe very shallow. And when you breathe shallow, it doesn't oxygenate your cells. And when your cells aren't oxygenated, you don't think clearly. So when you are approaching something that caused you anxiety in the past, like taking a test or public speaking, You actually cannot talk yourself out of the anxiety because thinking about it already put you in a parasympathetic response. You cannot talk yourself out of it. And you cannot focus on positive thoughts during chronic stress because of these pathways created during the parasympathetic response. But what you can do is smell your way out of this response. Our body is conditioned that when we encounter something, it's instinctual how we respond. Whether we fight, flight, or freeze, it's instinctual. You can smell yourself out of it. You can smell yourself out of a stress response. So this is where I want you to take your oil. All right. Now I want you to stand up, and I'm going to see if I can stand up and still have my headphones in. Okay, I want you to take your oil, but first I want you to stand up and I want you to take your right hand and I want you to point it in front of you and then keep your shoulders straight, and I want you to see how far behind you your arm can go. So, okay. All right, so point in front of you, and how far, do not move your shoulders, how far can you go? So think of it like a clock and remember where your hand is, all right? Okay, now I want you to put 1 or 2 drops of any essential oil in your hand. I want you to take 3 very deep breaths. I want you to get this oil deep in the lungs, okay? Okay, now I want you to do it again. Put your hand in front. It works every time. Your hand should go further back. This is the impact of essential oils on the nervous system. You get a positive response. So I like doing that because when your body is tensed up and stressed, even if you feel relaxed, you're not going to be able to move your hand very far. But as soon as you smell the oils, doesn't matter what the oil is, it's going to relax the body. It's going to relax the body. And you go into a sympathetic response and it calms the body, and all of a sudden you're like Gumby. Your arm can go so far behind you without twisting. Did that happen to anybody? Put something in the comments if it worked for you. If it worked for you. Because that to me is such an amazing way of testing, because the oil goes right into the amygdala in the olfactory system, which inhibits a stress response, which then allows you to breathe deeper and more naturally. And so this is why breathing oils throughout the day, whether you're diffusing them, you're wearing them, or direct inhalation, is so important. It's not woo-woo. It's science of what it does for our brain and the sympathetic system. So yeah, this is where multiple times a day, or at least once a day, put an oil in your hand, put it over your nose, and breathe in very deeply, like a count of 6, because you want to get the air and those oils very deep in the lungs, because that's where grief settles. It's very, very, very deep. It's not sitting up here top. It's very, very, very deep. And it will stiffen, it will literally stiffen up your body. So this is how you loosen everything. You're going to feel lighter. And Frankly, we should be breathing deeply all the time. You have to condition yourself. And this is what physical therapists do. When you go in for physical therapy, they teach you how to breathe using your diaphragm, not using your lungs, like breathing very deeply. And it takes training. And there's ways that you can do it. You can just Google it, and you have to get into the habit. But a really good thing to start doing many times throughout the day, a drop of oil in your hand, 3 different very deep breaths, and you'll be amazed at what it'll do for your respiratory system, but for your cells and your nervous system. It is very beneficial. All right, good. I see it worked for some of you. Excellent. I love doing that. All right, let's get into some lifestyle recommendations for the respiratory system. Water is very good. We cannot eliminate toxins from your body if we don't have enough water. We can't do it. And our lungs have to be moist. So when we're dehydrated, we can't eliminate the toxins, and they literally back up in our system. Eating whole foods, you know, I'm constantly banging the drum on this. You know, if you treat your body like a junkyard with junk food, you're going to get junkyard results. So whole foods, you know, cruciferous vegetables like cauliflower, broccoli, Brussels sprouts, fruits that have vitamin C like strawberries, oranges, kiwis, taking in omega-3 fatty acids with fish oil like salmon is so beneficial. Carotenoids, which are your yellow, orange, and red produce. So like yellow and red bell peppers, carrots, any fish. Red meat is not beneficial for the lungs, but fish is. And eating small meals, because large meals create acid reflux, which puts stress on the respiratory system. So smaller meals with more frequency. You know, I don't know who came up with the idea that we eat 3 meals a day, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Who came up with that? And we follow it. We follow it. We're really supposed to eat 5 small meals a day. And small meaning the amount of food you eat fits in the palm of your hand. That's small, because it'll save a lot of stress on your system, all your body systems. So small meals helps. Avoiding sugar and processed food. Switching to plant-based oils like olive oil rather than, you know, animal-based oils. So whole foods, very, very beneficial for the respiratory system. Having clean air in your home. So, you know, air pollution, smoke, fumes, cleaning solvents, infections, pollens, chemicals from cleaners can impact your air quality. The air quality in our homes are anywhere from 3 to 10 times more toxic than outside. You may have to remove carpet. Carpet off gases pretty horribly and puts toxic fumes in the air. Even painting walls, you know, luckily now they have low VOC or no VOC paint, which helps. New furniture off gases, couches, chairs, mattresses are pretty bad for off gassing. So are pillows. I've been researching pillows that don't off gas and are all natural materials. And you know, think of, we spend 1/3 of our life sleeping. And if you're sleeping on something that is toxic, it's really hard for the other 16 hours to undo that. So, you know, little things like that you can do. You know, checking radon levels in your home, that's the second leading cause of lung cancer. Removing toxic cleaners, candles, air fresheners, plug-ins, aerosols, you know, cleaning the air filter in your furnace, that's a big thing. Bringing in an air filtration system. and diffusing essential oils throughout the day, because essential oils naturally clean and detox the environment. That's very, very beneficial to do. Eliminating talc powder is another big thing. I already talked about that. But if there is talc in your mineral makeup, first of all, it's toxic, it causes cancer, but you're also breathing it in and it is really damaging to the lungs. So eliminating all talc. Eliminating smoking. And even avoiding smoke-filled areas, being very cautious about where you go. Avoiding people who are sick. Infections are really, really bad for the lungs. And, I look at the people who are getting really hit hard by COVID, and it makes me think about all of this that's on your screen. Have they drank enough water throughout their life? Are they eating good foods? Do they have clean air in their home? Do they work in a clean air work environment? Or are they in a high-rise building where there's no windows that can be opened? There's no fresh air. Or do they work in a manufacturing facility? Were they using talc powder? Were they around somebody who smoked? Do they have a history of infections, of getting the flu all the time? That's going to wear the lungs down a lot. So, because there doesn't seem to be much rhyme or reason to who's getting COVID really bad and getting the respiratory distress. And it could be a whole mix of all this stuff. That's what we don't know. And that's why being proactive is so important, especially right now. But deep breathing, okay, I just talked about this, deep breathing. We cannot detox our body without sufficient air. We have to oxygenate our cells to push those toxins out. So it's best to take in a very deep breath of air at room temperature. So when the weather is really cold outside, that is not the time to be taking in really deep breaths of air. I always worry about the runners in the winter, and it's better to actually wear a mask or wear a scarf, because breathing in super cold air is very harmful for the lungs. But when you can do deep breathing, it oxygenates your cells, which actually increases metabolism, which I think we all want. And when you deep breathe several times a day, you'll have better energy. If you can do this during meditation, meditation has so many health benefits, one of which is the breathing oxygenates the body, oxygenates the brain. And making sure that your head is in a proper location when you work is very important. When so many people have their head on a 45-degree angle, they're looking at their phones or their computer. No, your head has to be up. It takes 5 times more energy and breathing when your head is on a 45-degree angle. So it's about, I even heard this on the radio today, about having an ergonomic workstation. You need to look directly into your computer, not down at it. That's really bad. And when you're on your phone, you need to be like this, straight up, not like this, because that all impacts your breathing. And you can't breathe deeply when you're hunched over. Your lungs collapse on you. And then direct inhalation of oils. I mean, you can do it direct from the bottle, or you can put it in your hand. It is one of the best things that you can do to clean your lungs, to help them detox, and to nourish them with the oils. I've gotten my 83-year-old father to, and I saw him doing this today, where he puts eucalyptus in his hands and several times a day breathes it in very deeply. And he even says, ooh, it tickles, because he gets it way down deep in the lungs. And it can tickle when that happens, because he wants to have healthy lungs at the age of 83. Going outside in nature and taking a deep breath. is very healing to our lungs, especially if you are among trees. If you're in a concrete jungle, that's not going to be beneficial. But if you can go into a forest or go to water and breathe in nature, especially if the sun is on you, that is so nourishing to the lungs. Moving is very beneficial to the lungs because it gets our respiratory rate up. It doesn't have to be a jog or a run, just a good walk or yoga. Yoga actually has you focus on your breathing, makes you conscious about it. If you're sitting for a long time, even bouncing in your seat gets oxygen going. Okay, so you can do that. If you use a CPAP machine for sleep apnea, please do not put oils in the machine for breathing. I know companies that are selling oils to do that. Oils are very concentrated, and if you are breathing them all night, that's a little too, that is way too much of a good thing. Way too much. Please don't ever put oils in the CPAP machine, but you can clean it with the thieves cleaner to really keep it clean, because the oils in the thieves cleaner will get in there and really do a good job. And then I don't know if any of you have an aroma dome from back in the day. I think they stopped making them about 3 years ago. It's literally a tent that Young Living offered. That comes with a special diffuser where you're literally diffusing oil straight. I think you can still get the diffuser. It's called Aromalux, and you put the bottle in the diffuser. There's no water, and it's straight oil diffusion. Sitting in the aroma dome is amazing. Very, very good if you're having some respiratory issues, or put oils in water that's on the stove, that's steaming. That's at a boil, and breathe that in. Very, very beneficial for the lungs, especially to get the moisture in. So those are some lifestyle techniques. And now I'm going to talk about some essential oils. So, my philosophy is there is not one essential oil or supplement that's going to correct the body, because what caused the problem was multifaceted. When we give the body what it wants, it can repair. It knows what to do. So with the oils, if you are craving an oil, or if you're using a particular oil, the oils know what to do. So stop overthinking it, of how many drops do I use and where do I apply it and how often do I do it. Just use them. Just use them. I tell you, this is probably the biggest question I get from my team is recipes, because we have been trained to think medicinally in dosages, how many pills, how often. That's not the oils. The oils are do what you want. Apply them wherever you want. Do you want to topically apply? Do you want to ingest them? Do you want to smell them? Do you want to do all three? Do you want to do it once a day? Do you want to do it once every 10 minutes? Trust your body and use them, okay? Don't think of them like medicine, because they're not. All right, these are my favorite respiratory support products from Young Living. The ones that are in bold, I think, are the most crucial to have. So let's start with the left column. These are the supplements. Ningxia Red is the one product that supports all 12 body systems. Not only does it provide natural energy so that you can breathe, because if you don't have energy, you don't have energy to really breathe. But because it provides natural energy, it is beneficial to respiratory health. That's a good one. Rahemagen, I have just started taking this, and I am already a big fan because it supports, cleanses, and detoxes 7 body systems, including the respiratory system. It's a tincture that goes in water. It actually tastes pretty good. I'm so used to like mineral essence or the K&B tincture. It's like, those don't taste very good. They do a great job, but they don't taste good. Rahemogen actually is pretty good. It's pretty good. Put it in water, drink it. It's very good. And then inner defense. It promotes healthy respiratory function in addition to a healthy immune response. I mean, it's got oils like oregano and thyme. It's got the thieves blend, which have a lot of rich constituents in them for the respiratory system. So even though you're taking this as a pill, it is very beneficial. Now, what else is also beneficial is Super C. So vitamin C moves mucus out of the body. That's the point of the respiratory system, is to move toxins out, move mucus out. And this does it. That's what vitamin C does, is helps to move mucus out. And Super C also has zinc in it, which is very beneficial to the respiratory system. Super D, okay, so here's the thing. Most vitamin D supplements are from lanolin, extracted from sheep wool. Young Living Super D is different, and it's highly absorbable because it is sourced from sustainable lichen, which is a plant in North America, Scandinavia, and Asia. And the plant naturally absorbs vitamin D from the sun when it's growing. So we are literally ingesting the sun-produced vitamin D. You do not get that from vitamin D from lanolin. And most on the market is lanolin. So this is what makes our Super D very different and highly absorbable. Each capsule is 1,000 IUs. Okay. All right. Next, sulfurzyme. You can get it in capsule or powder. And the MSM that makes up the sulfur, it's a nutritional sulfur. It's not sulfa. A lot of people have a sulfa allergy. This is nutritional sulfur. Plus it has a wolfberry powder. And, you know, when we don't get enough sulfur, it will actually steal it from the body. Our body will steal it from itself. And then we just can't produce enough protein for the body. So MSM sulfur is the foundation to moving toxins out of the body and heavy metals out of the body. And we detox those through the respiratory system. So it's really, really good for the respiratory system. Now, too much sulfur is actually coming from China, which is not safe. Young Living tests their sulfur a lot for toxins. So I really trust our sulfur and where we're getting it. Now, here's the thing. If you take sulfurzyme, you need to also take mineral essence, because sulfur pulls minerals out of the body, and long term that can be a problem. So you got to take mineral essence with sulfurzyme. And with the sulfurzyme, 4 capsules is your maintenance. That's not even the detoxing. You take more than 4 capsules if you need to detox, okay? And then the last product is the Thieves Chest Rub. So this is thieves oil plus camphor and eucalyptus in a carrier oil, and it's a lot like the Vicks Vapor Rub. And you don't even have to touch it. You just squeeze it in the tube and you rub it on your chest, and it smells like Vicks Vapor Rub without petroleum. So in the US, it actually has an over-the-counter label on it because it has medicinal properties to it. All right, then for oils, you know, when we breathe in an oil, it goes into the cells in our lungs and into the bloodstream, and it bypasses the digestive system breakdown process. So smelling oils is really powerful for the lungs. So here are my favorites. There are a lot of respiratory oils, a lot. Honestly, any oils that you breathe are beneficial to the respiratory system. Any of Young Living's oils are going to be beneficial. Here are my favorites. I think the top 2 are Breathe Again and lemongrass. So Breathe Again has 4 different types of eucalyptus in it. Has the most eucalyptus of any of the blends. Very powerful. It's in a roller bottle. Roller it on your chest every night, okay? Lemongrass is a respiratory support oil, but it also pulls negative emotions out of the lungs. So it's working energetically as well as physically on the body. Lemongrass is a really key oil right now to maintaining good, strong respiratory health. Frankincense, I kind of put these in order. It's hard to say they're in order of preference, but this is kind of how I use them. Frankincense is for grief in the lungs. Frankincense is an amazing overall oil for just overall wellness, but what it does for the emotion of grief in the lungs is very powerful. Raven is a blend, and it has just one type of eucalyptus in it. It has Eucalyptus radiata, but again, you know, sometimes people don't want a lot of eucalyptus because it's super strong and powerful. And if you just want a little, go for Raven. It has one type in it. RC has 3 types of eucalyptus in it, plus Ravensara. It is strong when you need super strong help. That's a good one. Sniffle Ease, which is what I was smelling, and it's what I diffuse. I love it. I diffuse this at night. It has 4 different eucalyptus oils plus Ravensara. It's in the kids line. So it's very gentle. It's not super powerful like a lot of eucalyptus can be. I love it. Idaho Grand Fir. When you breathe it in deeply, it clears the lungs of stale energy. Absolutely clears it. It is truly like going into the woods and taking a really deep breath when you're among all the conifer trees. Oh my gosh, it is so cleansing. That's what Idaho Grand Fir does. Laurus nobilis, which is bay laurel, is very specific to the respiratory system. Really helps to clear mucus from the lungs. This is a really, 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 really good oil. I wish I could tell you everything that it does. Research it, please. This is a very powerful oil. And then the thieves oil, you know, cinnamon bark is a major respiratory oil. Major respiratory oil. So this is a really good one. Thyme is a good respiratory oil. I mean, I could just keep going on and on. There's so many, but these are kind of the top ones for me. And I like to recommend what works for me. Okay, and then I often get the question, well, Allie, you know, we technically have 4 different types of eucalyptus, but only 3 of them you can buy individually. So that's what this chart is to help you figure out which is which. So Eucalyptus globulus has the highest eucalyptol, so it is the strongest. It comes from our farm in China. You know, it's very earthy in how it smells, and it's in RC, and it's an Orthosport massage oil. Now, Eucalyptus radiata is really preferred by children. It's a little softer because it's more of a citrus. It's got a little citrus in it. And it comes from our farms in Australia and South Africa, and you'll find it in Thieves and Raven and Ortho Ease massage oil. And then Eucalyptus blue. This is a good substitute for RC if you don't have RC, and it comes from our farm in Ecuador, and it's very, very herbaceous, very warm and spicy, and it's in Breathe Again. So these all are fantastic eucalyptus oils for the lungs, but probably the most like traditional eucalyptus scent is the Eucalyptus globulus. Okay. All right, and then this, okay, this is brilliant. If you do not have the Supplements Desk Reference by Jen O'Sullivan, I recommend getting it. These were her recipes that were in there. These are capsules that you can make with Young Living's Vitality oils, because our Vitality oils can be ingested. And what you do is you put these in a veggie capsule and ingest them. And she has different types. These are all respiratory oils. So it just, you just kind of got to tweak and figure out what's going to work for you. You can, research the oils. And, if you really want to, ingest copaiba, there's, 2 recipes here that you can use. But these, I've tested out some of these. They're very, very good. They're very good. So I wanted to give you these so that you have them. And then, oh my gosh, for sinuses, this is absolutely my favorite thing. Absolutely my favorite thing. When your sinuses are giving you trouble, I used to put thieves up my nose and it burns. It burns like you wouldn't believe. I see my dead grandmother. It burns that bad. So I switched to Exodus 2. And what I do is I put a drop on either end of a Q-tip. One Q-tip's end goes up one nose, and I swab as deep as I can. I mean, not as deep as a COVID test, but I go pretty deep. And then I flip it, and the other end of the swab, I do the other nasal passage. Unbelievable. Unbelievable how your sinuses will feel after this. So I always sneeze a couple of times after doing it, and then it's just very soothing, very soothing. So I highly recommend this if your sinuses give you trouble. All right, and then for my friends who love crystals, these are your respiratory crystals. These are the ones that I've worked with. I really like them. You actually lay them on your chest when you're having problems. So amethyst helps the respiratory tract because it's got iron in it, and the cooling properties of the blues and the purples are very soothing to the lungs. Apophyllite stabilizes respiratory issues caused from stress and anxiety. So you just lay the apophyllite on your lungs and it normalizes your breathing, helps you get into a deeper breathing, which is beneficial for stress and anxiety. Chrysocolla reoxygenates the blood and the lungs, and it increases breathing capacity and helps to remove grief from the lungs. I mean, chrysocolla is amazing. Morganite is pink beryl, and it oxygenates cells and clears the lungs. Rhodochrosite helps with respiratory circulation and helps to get the energy in the lungs circulating to remove any negative energies. I mean, it actually acts as a filter to the lungs. It's really powerful. If you can wear like a rhodochrosite necklace that hangs over your lungs, you are good to go. And then rutilated quartz helps with respiratory issues by helping you to let go of the past. And it's very supportive during those releases. So this is a really good one to let go. And then if you have any of these in a massage wand, if you know what a massage wand is, you can actually take the massage wand and press it just under the collarbone are these squishy pockets. Take your massage wand and just massage there. I mean, these are very powerful acupressure and acupuncture points. It's also where lymphatic nodes are. But this is really great for the lung meridian, and you can just massage. But otherwise, just lay the crystals over your lungs, breathe very deeply, and that'll really help open them up. And for sinuses, I have been known to take surgical tape and tape jade, the crystal jade, to my sinuses. It's very beneficial. All right, so we are at the end, and if you are watching this and you do not have Young Living oils, whoever invited you to this, get with them so that they can help you get started. Maybe you want to get a starter kit, maybe you want to get some of the oils that I talked about. They will help you get started. If I invited you or if you just randomly found me, contact me. I will help you get started because these are amazing products that can really, oh my gosh, they can do such great things for your lungs. And then, please stay connected through my website, my Facebook page, my YouTube page, where you can find that grief protocol class. And then Instagram on Alley Catalyst, you can find the grief protocol I talked about. It's in a highlight. All right, so I am going to end the recording and take questions from those of you who are here live. So for those who are watching the recording, thanks for joining in.